In the Kutei Siches, Chelik Yud Aleph, page 149, the Rebbe talks about Lifnei Iver Lisite Michshel. There's a pasuk that says, in front of a blind person, you're not allowed to put a stumbling block. And from there, the Gemara learns out that you're not allowed to cause somebody else to do an Aveira. And if you cause somebody else to do an Aveira, you're Iver on the lav of Lifnei Iver Lisite Michshel. And the Rebbe discusses there whether this lav is a Issur Kloli or Issur Proti. That means, is this a general Aveira, that no matter which Aveira you cause somebody to do, you're Iver on the same lav, whether you cause somebody to Mechala Shabbos Chas v'Sholem or to eat Chometz on Pesach Chas v'Sholem, you're Iver on the same lav, the lav of not causing somebody to do an Aveira. Or is Lifnei Iver a prat in every Aveira? If you cause somebody to Mechala Shabbos, you're Iver on Lifnei Iver of Shabbos. If you cause somebody Chas v'Sholem to eat Chometz on Pesach, you're Iver on the Issur of Lifnei Iver of Chometz. And the Rebbe quotes this Chkira from the Ragachover. And then the Rebbe says in the Order 65 that you could say that this depends on the two opinions that we have, whether if you actually physically put a stumbling block in front of a blind person, as the simple words mean, are you also Iver on the lav of Lifnei Iver? And the Rebbe makes it clear that if you say that it is kipshute that you are Iver, then we would assume, and the Rebbe explains why, that this is a prat in every Aveira. But if you hold you're not Iver, then this is a Issur Kloli. But in the middle of this order, it says, or you could say the opposite. That if the Torah means kipshute, then it's a Issur Kloli. But if the Torah doesn't mean kipshute, you're not Iver kipshute, then it's Issur Proti. And the Rebbe explains why. Now the fact that you could say the opposite is in brackets. So obviously it means that the main svara that the Rebbe has is the other way, that if it's a Issur also not to put physically a stumbling block, then it's a Issur Proti, and if you're not Iver when you do it, kipshute, putting a stumbling block for a blind person, it's a Issur Kloli. But I want to say the background behind this. The same ha'ora is printed in Chelik Lamed Tes, page 184, on the Biurim of Igeres HaTshuva in the Hisofis of that Chelik. And there it says at the end of this order, it says, this comes from a letter. And this is what happened. This whole thing was written in a letter by the Rebbe once. Tovshin Chavtes, when the Rebbe every Shabbos spoke on Igeres HaTshuva, many of the sichas the Rebbe was Magia, and that they were printed in Kuntreisim called Biurim Igeres HaTshuva. So in Peirik Beis of Igeres HaTshuva, the Rebbe spoke and it came to talk about this inyan. So when they gave the Rebbe the sicha to be Magia, so since this is a letter from the Rebbe that has to do with that inyan, that this was added as a ha'ora because this is connected to that inyan, and the Rebbe had written about this. But in that letter that the Rebbe wrote, it didn't say the opposite. It just said the first way. It didn't say the yashleimer l'hepech. But when this order was given into the Rebbe as a hemshel to the sicha, the question was asked to the Rebbe, why can't you say the opposite? And it was explained to the Rebbe that there's a svara that you could say the opposite. So the Rebbe, what he did was, he said, okay, you could put that in too. And he put it into brackets, Bekitzer, Yashleimer Gam L'Hepech, and that's put into brackets. That's when it came in. The original letter, it didn't say that. And it came in later on, when the question was asked to the Rebbe, why you can't say this, he says, yes, okay, you could say that too if you want to, basically. But it's left in brackets. So in other words, the real pshat, the way the Rebbe had lechatchila, and this is the way Iker is, that it's the other way. And when you say L'Hepech, that's something that the Rebbe said, okay, there's a svara to say that too. He accepted the svara and he left it in brackets. And this is how it was printed in the Kuntreisim of Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva, then Tovshin Chavtes. Then this sicha from the Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva went to the Sefer of Likutei Biurim of Rebbe Shia Korf on Tanya. The second chelik was a copy of all the Mugadik, even not Mugadik sichas of the Rebbe and Ligeres HaTshuva. So it went in, and there it said already, V'yashleim Gam L'Hepech, because when the Rebbe was Magia, the sichas to Ligeres HaTshuva, that's what it was added. From there, it came to the Likutei Sichas Chelik Yud Aleph that I started with, because that ha'ora that's there was taken from the Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva. But since it's the same minyan, so the ha'ora was added here too. And then later on, when Chelik Lamed Tes was printed and they added in the Hisofis, the Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva, so it went in there too, the same thing, the way it was originally printed in the Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva. That's why here it says in Chelik Lamed Tes, it adds Memichtav Kvedush Ad Morshlita, because that's what it said in the Biurim Ligeres HaTshuva. When it was put into Chelik Yud Aleph, It doesn't say Memichtav, it's put in as a order, and it's connected mamish to that inyan, and the Rebbe was Magian, and the Rebbe left it in there, because this is the Rebbe's letter, but it didn't say Michtav Elishat Morshlita, but in the Biurim it did say, so therefore, when they reprinted the Biurim Ageras Atshuva, and they saw it's a Chel Klamates, it stayed with the words Memichtav Elishat Morshlita.